there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rock and Roll Podcast. Check out this record. My name is Frank, and with me is my good buddy, Mark.
Hey, Frank. Hey there, listeners.
So I hope everyone is doing well out there. We are syndicated via Redline Radio LLC out of Cleveland, Ohio, and you could find us on Spotify and Apple Music and all those other places where you digest a good podcast.
Yeah, normally this is where I tell you to head over to YouTube so that you can see what this podcast looked like, and I make a joke about what outfit Frank's wearing, but there's no video this week, so just assume that we are both fully nude.
That's right. And for any new listeners out there, this is the podcast where Mark and I recommend albums to each other to review, listen to and review them. Plus, we have a wide variety of musical discussions like our Spotlight series where we dig into a band's catalog and we see what comes out on the other side.
Yeah, in our Verse series, we pit two albums against each other and make them fight over total stereo domination.
That's right. Now, be sure to check us out on Instagram, and we have a new Facebook group. We'd like to drop additional content that will hopefully leave you wanting more musical goodness and, of course, Mark's random nonsense. Yep. And, of course, if you have a record that you want us to check out, drop us a comment wherever you find us. While you're at it, like and subscribe, give us a review and a rating. So I always say this, Mark, my man, how are you?
Frankie, I'm good, man. I'm just enjoying a nice lazy weekend. I've got me a nice tall glass of whiskey. And why don't you tell our dear listeners what new and exciting thing we've got for them this week?
Absolutely. So we're both super excited for this episode because we are joined by the band High on Stress, hailing from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I know Illinois, respectively. So gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Well.
Thanks for having us here.
Doing real well.
Good. Well, again, we really appreciate the time. I know you guys are super busy with life and family, so we appreciate the time that we have here now. If you guys just want to go, let's round robin it. Let's take a few seconds here and introduce yourselves and what roles you guys play in the band.
All right, I'll go first. I'm Mark. I'm the drummer in the band, and I'm here in Minneapolis.
Very cool.
I am Nick. I am the singer, guitar player guy, and I'm in Minneapolis as well.
I guess that leaves me. I'm Jim. I'm the bass player, and I'm in Illinois, so just north of Chicago.
Very cool. Well, we're glad you guys are here. We have two Marks and two drummers, so each Mark is a drummer. So that's pretty cool. Of course, one's with a C, one's with a K. Let's go into some of the band history. I know, Nick, from my research, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you moved to Minneapolis in 99. So is that kind of tell us a little bit, maybe some of the history of how the band got together, how'd you guys meet, all that good stuff?
Yes, we got together in a very long time ago now, 2003. I put up a band wanted sign, literally looking for every member of the band, including a singer, which Mark can go into here. But Mark responded to that ad, and because of that, he has been stuck with me ever since.
Yeah,
Mark, you're stuck with him, huh?
Yeah, it was a funny ad. I had played in other bands on and off over the years. Hadn't been playing for a while, and wasn't sure if I was going to be playing anytime soon again. And then I saw this ad, and I always look at those ads. You go into the music store and you just kind of browse through those things that are pinned up on the bulletin board, and sometimes they're kind of good for a laugh. Or maybe laugh at yourself because you realize how out of touch you are with music when you see, the age groups and influences and things like that. And this was really no exception. There was a lot of stuff, a lot of metal stuff, new metal stuff, being posted, looking for influences like Korn and Limp Bizkit and such. And I'm kind of laughing, thinking, this maybe I'm not going to be playing with anybody these days. And then I saw Nick's ad, and Nick, what stood out other than the musical things in common, which were kind of unusual compared to some of these other ads, was the fact that he was pretty much advertising for every role in the band, including himself. He wanted a singer, a bass player, a keyboard player, drummer, lead guitarist. After reading this ad, I was wondering what he was going to do. So I thought it was kind of funny And I thought, I can call this guy. This seems pretty low pressure because I don't know if he's even going to be in the band or whether he's going to be like Reuben Kincaid and be the manager or something.
Yeah, it was never my plan. I wanted to play guitar and maybe write some songs, but it was never my plan to sing in the band. And then soon after that, an old friend, recording engineer John Tranberry, got a hold of me and asked me what my plans were for a new band because I'd left my old band, and
Right.
he had engineered my old band's records. And I told him I just met this Mark guy, and we got together. And he's like, "What are you gonna do about a bass player?" And I said, "I don't know yet." He offered his services, and he hadn't played in a band in quite a while as well. So that's kind of how it all came together. And then our original guitar player Ben came through him. And then a couple years later, Ben and John left the band pretty much mid. John left after our first album, and Ben left partially through our second album. So in came Jim and Chad at that point, respectively. Right, Jim? You out there,
Yeah,
Jim?
no, I was just gonna say, I think it's funny too. So, yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Um, no, I thought it was funny. So Nick and I met each other working. We worked together at Target, but I remember my first day at Target, and I happened to walk by Nick's desk, and he had like Prince stuff and Wilco stuff. He had all sorts of band stuff on his desk. I'm like, I need to meet that guy. So and then I came out to see the band play and got to know the guys a little bit. So when John left, I offered up, said, "Hey, I've never played bass in a band before, but I'll play with you guys until you find somebody new." And it was right before we went and played this big thing in Sturgeon Bay, opening for Jackson Brown, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll lend my services as long as you want to keep me." And so here we are, a million years later. That was 2006. I'm still here, so I must have done something right.
Yeah, see, Jim's a fanboy of the band that we have allowed to play with us, and he's still on double secret probation. I don't know if he knows that.
Jim, did you move to get out of the band, but they just kept you in? What's the situation there? Because you guys took a little bit of a hiatus, right?
Yeah, so it's the true story, right? You meet a gal and you get married and have a couple of kids, and then she wants to move closer to home. So we decided to move our family to Northern Illinois to be closer to her family and stuff. And back in 2013, 2014, when I told the guys, I mean, it just didn't seem feasible. It really didn't seem feasible to continue the band, at least with the four of us. And I ultimately said, "Hey, I understand." I understand whatever it is that we want to do, but I'd love to make things work. I just don't know if I can, being 400 miles away, so on and so forth. So, ultimately, and I can let the guys talk about the ultimate decision to break up the band for this short period of time, but it just didn't seem feasible at that time, which is funny to think about what we've done over the last 2 years now.
Right.
Right. No, we
And
finished
was that
our
like an
last
official
our last.
breakup or?
Yeah, no, we released our last in quotations record, leaving Minneapolis. We were working
Right.
on it, about to record it around the time that Jim told us he was out, and so we decided, you know what, we've got about, I think it was probably 9 months to a year, and we spent that time playing shows and working on that record. And then we had our release show was actually our final show at the Parkway Theater in Minneapolis, which was just a fantastic show, one for the books.
Right.
And then we walked away from it for about just about 4 years. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, and Chad is part. Chad should be here for this because he was part of the ones to blame here. Or one day he just we had left some bands we were in, or I did, and then he texted me one morning and he said, "We should get High on Stress back together." And I said, "You think so?" He's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Yeah, I kind of want that to happen too." And then we went back and forth via text quite a bit. And then the next day he called me on the phone, and he was visiting his family in another state. And I said, "Hey, do you mean what you said yesterday?" He's like, "Oh, I was really drunk. But yeah, I meant it.
That's how Frank and I get most of our ideas done too. Is that I just get really drunk and text them, and then I get an email with a bunch of information I didn't ask for.
Well, what kind of worked out then is I called Mark on the phone maybe a day or two later, and I said, you know what, this is what I think we should do. Maybe Jim can figure something out, and got a load of songs here. I think it's going to be our best record. And Mark agreed somehow.
Well, there was another piece of it too that I think is important. We had a friend, a really good friend of the band, big supporter, guy named Dave Wilson, who here in Minneapolis, who had a big birthday coming up, and every time he turns, a new decade, 20, 30, 40, whatever birthday, he has a big party and he gets, some pretty good bands playing, friends of his that he knows from being in this music scene here for many years. So he always has his favorite bands play every 10 years, and he'd gotten a commitment from us long before we broke up or even knew that we were going to break up, to play the next milestone birthday party that came around. And he held us to it. He was asking us, well, you guys, you got to get together to play my party at least. And we're like, well, I don't know, but it just seemed like we could probably pull off a one-off. We didn't hate each other or anything. And Jim was at a point where he could come back here once in a while for family visits and things like that. So we thought, yeah, we can do a show. Maybe, throw it together. Probably won't be great. And then we were surprised that we found out that we could actually still play everything just as well, if not better, as when we'd been sweating it out in a practice space, once a week. There was a lot of muscle memory and just a lot of, chemistry and just things that click effortlessly when you play music with the same group of people and write music with the same group of people for so many years. So it kind of came back together effortlessly for that one night. And it was a great night. And I think that opened our minds to, if there was a way to do this with Jim's still living in Illinois, maybe we could resume things on a maybe a different level of activity. We can, play shows closer to where he lives. Maybe we're not going to be playing as much around town here, but that was okay in our mind. So it actually ended up working out just fine for what we do. We also put out a compilation, a greatest hits, an album full of songs nobody's ever heard that we call High on Stress Greatest Hits.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
We wanted to record, a new song for that, because if people bought our old records, we thought, it'd be cool for them to have another song, a new song. And that recording session that took place at Chad, who's not here, the guitar player, Chad's studio.
Smash Mouth fan.
Yeah, that session was really effortless as well. That song came together, the recording came together, just almost like, just like riding a bike or falling off a log or whatever the other cliches are. So all that stuff is, it all came together really organically, to use that overused term. We didn't really have to force it back together. It just kind of happened and made sense. Once we tried to put it back together, it just came back together almost on its own.
Sure. Now, Nick, in those 4 years, I guess this is for you specifically. Are you still practicing those songs every once in a while? Are you picking up the guitar? Are you going through those, or they're kind of tucked away in another life, and this is what you were like doing at one point, but you're not currently doing it now?
No, it was weird because I walked away from the Parkway and thought that, after playing all those songs for years, that they weren't going to be played again. And I ended up playing a couple of them in those years, a couple times. But overall, they were kind of on the sidelines, and I was just doing new stuff. And so when, we showed up for that reunion kind of birthday party show, Jim walked up to the front door with his bass, and we really hadn't practiced, which was kind of nuts because it had been, probably a few years at that point. And so we were all kind of coming in cold on it, and it was pretty fun because I remember Mark clicking in, and there's that kind of nerves that happen when you haven't played for a while, and
Sure.
he clicked in, and instantly we all looked at each other and went, "Whoa, maybe we still have something here."
Well, and I think the crazy thing, even for that show, there, if I remember correctly, and it had been, I don't think it had been more than 2 years when we played that show for Dave, but it was literally the first time in 2 years all four of us had been in the same room together since the Parkway, which was crazy. And I can think over the years all the times where we'll start a set, or we're in the middle of a set or whatever, and if things are really grooving and clicking, Mark and I will look at each other as the rhythm section, and we kind of do the head nod like, hell yeah, this is right where we need to be. And it felt great to have that be, on note one, a show we haven't, or, playing for the first time in 2 years, and be like, oh yeah, it's just like 2014 again. It was awesome.
That's pretty
No,
cool.
it was really cool. I remember we walked off and Chad came over and he said, "We need to do this all the time." So I think that was the beginning before Chad got drunk and really made things go.
Well, I'm glad the rhythm section was tight. When Mark and I were in bands, the biggest obstacle we had, right, Mark, was finding a bass player. So there was one time when we just abandoned the bass player, and it was just me on an acoustic guitar and Mark on the drums, right, Mark?
That's right. Yeah. Long live cheating at solitaire.
That was the name. Absolutely, absolutely.
It's got to be the beauty of having a dedicated bass player who lives 400 miles away. There's some dedication there if he shows up.
No, yeah,
Absolutely.
no
Jim, if you want to come to South Florida, I'm open. So, so all right. So in our research, I would say that there isn't much about you guys, in regards to information that's out there. So when folks are first discovering you guys for the first time, and when they're listening to this right now, what should they know about you guys and about the band?
Ooh, wow, where to start with that? Well, just branching off from where we were, when we did get back together and everybody agreed, we started working on this new record. Had a handful of songs coming in, and the new record is really inspired by a few things. The Replacements, of course, has been kind of a running thing under the radar for years that people always point out the influence there.
Sure.
And we've opened for Tommy Stinson. We've opened for Slim Dunlap. In fact, we were his backing band at a couple of shows as well. So there's that piece of it. And then also we had opened up for, we're all big fans, but I would say Mark is probably the biggest fan around of Tommy Keene.
Right.
And we'd opened for him, and he was just a wonderful guy. And he passed away. And that was another piece of this puzzle, too. Mark and I went out to Los Angeles for his kind of memorial. They had a memorial party for him.
Right.
And Mark and I spent some time together there because it had been a little bit since we hung out. So that was a little piece of it as well. So this record really was kind of a culmination of just the freshness of starting over with a familiar band. When you play together that long, you know where everything's going to be. Where Mark's going to have this really, I call them lyrical drum parts. Like you could sing them almost. And where Jim's going to pop in with the vocals. So there's the kind of that familiar nature mixed with something that felt new because we were starting it over, mixed with just, our love of the Replacements and our love of Tommy Keene, and he passed away, like I said. So there was a little bit of a tribute to Tommy Keene and what we did on this newest record as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'm a little late to and I saw that you guys opened up for Tommy Stinson and of course Tommy Keene, and I'm late to the Tommy Keene party, but as I got into it, I was like, this is fantastic, and only my heart to be broken finding out that he passed away. I think he's a really undiscovered gem, and I try to educate people as much as I can on him because I find his stuff to be really awesome, and I'm sure playing with him, that had to be some experience for you guys, right?
You want to grab that, Mark?
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, it was a tremendous experience. I like Nick said, I've been a fan for years, and got to know him a little bit at first as a fan, and then later on we ended up putting some of these shows together with him, and our mutual friend Slim Dunlap. And Tommy knew Slim, of course, from back in the day when Tommy opened, I think, one of the Replacements tours, probably Don't Tell a Soul. And so he knows those guys, of course. And we had these great shows with him that we were involved in, and got to know him a bit as a friend, as well as somebody that we're big fans of. So it was great. Those were all really great experiences. And, I think, as far as the influence on this record, it was a bit of, realizing that, hey, nobody's getting any younger, and there's no reason not to try to keep making music if we can, if there's a way to do it. And Nick and I were like, Tommy's passing, because we got to know him a bit as a friend as well as somebody we played shows with, and huge fans of his music and stuff. And he's a really great guy, and we got to know all some of his friends, some of his inner circle, and they were all wonderful people as well. And when Nick and I, went out to that memorial for him, I think we realized, nobody's getting any younger, and we should just do this, while we can, if we want to. And Nick had as he said, a handful of songs that were really strong, and
Right.
I listened to them, and I thought, yeah, this potentially could be, better than anything that we did on our previous records. So it seemed like there were reasons to move forward, not just for the sake of nostalgia or anything else, but also like, hey, we could actually make a record that's better than the band could actually be better than it used to be. And I think that's what happened. I think with the recording technology, of course, Jim's able to do a lot from where he is, and we're able to do things on our end. We also had some other collaborators on this record that also were able to kind of work remotely at times, but then also come into Chad's studio and record things as well. So all that technology really facilitated us being able to write and record a new record that we felt really strongly about.
Right.
And then after we got back together, we were playing shows all over the Midwest, and those shows were going great as well. Of course, we were hoping that we'd be able to promote this record because we thought we had a decent record on our hands. But it's nice as finding an audience. That people are still getting into it and finding it on the internet or through hearing it on the radio or whatever.
Well, and I think the other cool part too is, I think, granted, 4 years is maybe it is a long time, but in the grand scheme of things, isn't necessarily a super long break, especially since we had played off and on together.
Sure.
But I think it's interesting the time spent apart and how I think it's helped our collaboration, and just kind of the growth, because I think our musical taste, it's not like any of out of the four of us, our musical tastes changed a ton in 4 years, but I think probably what we've consumed individually and how it's impacted knowing the yins and yangs and how we zig and zag together, but some of the new things, I think that's, I don't think there's anything, I don't want to say there's anything terribly off the wall different about the new record, but it's also not, paint by numbers either, which I think is awesome. We've been able to kind of find our stride while also being a little, taking risks that maybe we wouldn't have done post leaving Minneapolis had we stayed together. So
yeah. Well, that's cool, and I definitely want to get into kind of the similarities and maybe some differences and contrasts between the records for sure. Before we get into that, I think Mark, you want to kind of talk about a top list, right?
Yeah. So just to help the listeners at home or in their car or sitting on the bus, wherever they are, kind of get to know you guys. Frank and I like to do top 10 lists. We're going to keep it pretty simple. We're going to do a top 5 list. We're going to do your top 5 records to party to. Now, if you guys don't have 5 records individually ready to fire, we can do one apiece, just something you like to put on and listen to while having a good time. Obviously, COVID parties are making these pretty solo, but hey, nothing wrong with putting on a record and having a good time. So feel free to jump in. What's one of or 5 of your favorite records to party to?
All right, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, Nick. Come on, Nick.
Passing it over to me. Oh, well, let's see. I'm always down for some Prince. I can't play the funk, but I can listen to the funk.
There you go.
I would pretty much go with any Prince record. Sign of the Times probably being my favorite. But for that real good funk, maybe Controversy.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
Jim?
Yeah, I think for me, I enjoy a good Jason Isbell record. I know that seems like a silly thing to say to party to, but when I need to soak into some music, there's definitely that. I'm a huge Guster fan. I can listen to Guster all day long, every day. There's just something about their music that just kills me. So, and then I've been known to enjoy Jimmy Eat World. They're a band that I just can't get enough of too. So those would
Sure.
probably be my top three, probably.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I would, there's certain things that are kind of staples, excuse me, staples of my musical diet. Always, listening to various Tommy Keene records, The Replacements. Thin Lizzy is a band that I really love. The Live and Dangerous record is a really great live album that a lot of people know about, but many more don't, and I think it's one of the best live albums out there. That's stuff that I've been listening to a lot lately. It's kind of hard to talk about partying because what is partying now? Someone's on a Zoom call and they're having a drink on their end or something. I don't even know.
This is the party right now, actually.
This is the biggest party I've been to in a year.
Oh, good.
Well, I'll step in for Chad here because he's not here. Chad would probably tell you Nirvana in Utero, but since he's not here, his favorite record to party to is Smash Mouth All Star.
Nice. Well, my Mark,
Chad might actually listen to that record. We don't even know for a fact.
I bet he is a Smash Mouth fan.
We're gonna find him.
We know Chad anymore.
Yeah, we're gonna find him buried in his basement, listening to Smash Mouth records, and we're gonna be like, "Oh, we were just kidding. We didn't know."
It'll have like a
everyone on vinyl. Where
he's weighing the merits between Smash Mouth and Sugar Ray and who's better.
I mean that's obviously going to be Sugar Ray.
Yeah.
Right. I say that just completely pulling my head out of my ass.
I feel like I'm
probably
treating
just
Chad
based
like
on
a bass player here, so I apologize to Chad when he listens to this. I shouldn't treat you like a bass player.
There you go. Well, my Mark.
Anything to deflect the attention from me, that's fine.
My Mark, do you want to tell everyone kind of what's been on your record player real quick, or?
I gotta. We recently did an episode on the B-52s and their self-titled first record, and I just absolutely I kind of came out of the closet about being a B-52s fan. With all my punk rock credit, I didn't want to ruin it, but I just love that record, and I've been listening to it way too much lately. What about you, Frankie?
Well, took the girls to the record store the other day. Of course, I have two daughters, so we got Beauty and the Beast, the picture disc edition. Yeah, but
it's a party.
It is a party. But besides that, my oldest wanted Pet Sounds on the other day. I had Huey Lewis and the News. I had sports on. Of course, yes. the many Sinatra records that I grew up to, being son to someone who is obsessed with Sinatra. So that's what's been getting the party started here at the DiMaria household.
Nice.
So always a good time. Now, all right, so let's talk about kind of the Minneapolis, Minnesota sound. Mark and I are from Florida. Mark's in Central Florida. I'm in South Florida. There is no sound here. I'm just being honest. Not really a big scene. It's very true.
Hey, we put out more metal bands per capita than any other scene.
There you go.
Yeah.
And they all suck.
It's very transient. So go ahead.
What parts of Florida are you from? Or are you in?
So I'm outside of Fort Lauderdale, and Mark used to live outside of Fort Lauderdale also, and now Mark's around the Orlando area. So.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Ironically, I'm the one without kids, but I moved to the best county in Florida to move to raise a family.
Yeah.
And I hate kids, so.
Yeah.
But
there you go. That's a discussion.
My cats like it.
Yeah.
So.
Discussion for another time. But so. If you look at the history of everyone who's been from Minnesota and the Minneapolis area, obviously Dylan, right, is from Minnesota. Prince, you mentioned Replacements, Husker Du, Soul Asylum, Craig Finn, now in Hold Steady, even though Hold Steady's based out of Brooklyn, right? Jayhawks, Motion City Soundtrack. They're known for all these great bands. What is, I guess, that sound, if you had to describe it, and how do you see the bands roll into it?
Oh, that's a good question. You get that Minneapolis sound thrown around a lot, and I feel like it's almost like three different sounds, right? It's Prince in the time and the real funky stuff. Then you've got your replacements, Husker Du, and then you've got the other opposite side, which is more of that kind of Jayhawks, which is a little closer to the replacements, but a little bit more Americana alt country.
Right.
Uh, other than the funk, which Mark won't let me play because I have no rhythm. Um, I would say we fall into those other two categories of the Minneapolis sound. But whenever we get reviewed, that inevitably pops up. Somebody will always point out that we kind of have that Minneapolis sound, and we'll take it because, like you said, it's a great history here.
I think, sorry, is it Jim? Is that who I'm stepping on?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I had a thought. I do think that, whenever you have places, I think a lot of the rock and roll stuff is influenced by the weather. When you talk about, Florida, there is music in Florida. There are bands there. But, a lot of it is, there's a lot of reggae. There's a lot of kind of more modern surf kind of music. There's a lot of that kind of parrot head sort of thing. I think that the music scene, whether there's a lot of cover bands, I think it's influenced by the music, and in a lot of places in Florida, you're on vacation or your daily life is kind of, life's a beach. You're not hanging out in some dungeon of a basement, with your friends writing rock and roll because you can't, you've got nothing else to do and you've got cabin fever and you're stuck inside because of winter for 9 months.
Right.
So I think the Minneapolis rock stuff is influenced by people sort of, being stuck indoors a lot and having to express their creativity that way. And I think also a place like this, Minneapolis, I think that the city, Minneapolis and St. Paul, I think it, attracts a lot of people of an artistic sensibility, so I think that goes into the mix as well. But I think if you look at places where there's a sort of a rock and roll scene, I think you'll find that there's a lot of bad weather there.
It's true.
Makes sense.
That's a fair argument for me. I was going to ask you guys, playing gigs, both big and small, are really important in how a band grows and develops its sound. Is there anything you guys learned on stage as opposed to in that practice room that really pushed the direction of your band sound-wise? Or did you guys really have that keyed in the practice room?
I think we probably had it keyed in the practice room for sure. I think some of the best performances we probably ever gave were behind a closed door in the practice space over some mini donuts.
Nice.
Do you agree, Mark and Jim?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Oh, I was just saying. I think to a certain extent you're right. I think that it helps with the muscle memory piece too that makes our live shows so good. I honestly think that over the years, and again, we've all been playing together for so long. I mean, this current version of the lineup has been playing together since like mid 2008. It's been a long time. I think that the practice space as well as the stage has helped us to take the music seriously, but not to take things too seriously that we forget about having fun and enjoying, making music together and going out and playing for people. At least that's how I feel. I don't know if everybody, all four of the guys feel that way, but I do feel that we've learned that lesson because the more fun we seem to have on stage, the more fun the people are listening to us seem to have too. So,
yeah, I think our ability to bring the practice space to the stage tends to work in our favor a lot of times because we're a little ridiculous as people at times. When the four of us are together, we hit the highway and about 2 miles in, our IQ just drops, and I think that's sort of what makes our live show fun.
So do I understand this correctly? At the live show, you guys bring mini donuts?
Oh no, that's just the
okay.
No, we don't practice anymore though, so we don't.
I just wanted a donut. That's
Mark likes a good.
Yeah,
he likes a good cruller.
Our show's pretty, straightforward. I mean, we're just a 4-piece rock band live. We don't. I mean, on the records, we want the songs to sound as good as possible, and we want to maximize, the arrangements and so forth. But when we go out and play, it's pretty in your face, and it's not there are not a lot of frills, and we're able to just deliver that sound that you would hear if you were hearing us in our practice space. We can go and play anywhere. We can play barely with no PA, because we just have that sound coming out of the four of us. There's no bells or whistles. We're not relying on any we don't have keyboards or samples or any backing tracks or any of that kind of stuff that people use these days. And it's just very straightforward. So yeah, if you hear us play somewhere, you're going to hear what you would hear in our practice space.
Yeah, we rely on the energy of the four of us. I mean, it's key.
Totally. We feed off each other for sure.
So let's get to the album. So in particular, obviously, the new album, Hold Me In. This is the fifth album. Is that correct? We had Moonlight Girls in 2005, Coplight Parade in 2008, Lying as a Dying Guard in 2011, Leaving Minneapolis 2014, and now Hold Me In. Is that correct? This is album 5?
Right.
So talk a little bit about the similarities in the writing process for the albums, and then kind of what you saw some of the differences, because I know you stated those before. I guess what felt different with this one outside of that hiatus that you guys took?
Ooh, that's a really tough question. I think, with the first record, we were just finding our way. Like I said, I wasn't even planning to sing in the band. It was like,
right.
I was writing songs. We got in the studio when we would rehearse, because it was our bass player studio at the time, and I would sing the songs because there was no one there to sing them, and then one day the guys just said, you should just sing, it just makes sense. So from there, it was really just trying to find our legs, and I was writing songs at a pretty good clip at that point. And I think, especially on that first record, it was just coming out, and I don't know, but there wasn't a lot of thought put into it. It just was what it was. And part of that too, the first record's got obviously rockers on it, but it also had some pretty twangy stuff on it as well. And our original guitar player, Ben, who we nicknamed Country for a very specific reason. He's really into alt country Americana stuff, and that's the kind of guitar playing he played. He'd never played an electric guitar before we started the band. So I think that kind of influenced a little bit of that first record as well. As we went along, he did pick up the electric, and I love that record. Most people will say it's probably our first or second best after this one. So that one has more of a twang to it, just based on Ben. Second record, kind of similar, but halfway through that record, Chad came in. So you've got a little bit more guitar stuff going on, guitar heroics going on on the second one to a degree. That's Coplight Parade. And then on Living as a Dying Art, that was really Chad's first coming in from the start moment. And he's a rock guitar guy. So that really influenced the band in that way, where it started to shift, and that brought us to Leaving Minneapolis. So it's hard to say on this new one. It really just came together as it came together. Like, we had the songs, we got in the room, and they just kind of came together quickly.
I think the other thing too is, Nick, you came to the table, right, with some songs that just innately on paper were really strong. And I think, Mark alluded to that earlier. And I think even the things that were brought in as we were working on it had so much potential. I think the fun thing was the unique new way of recording and frankly arranging together, when there were times where it was just Nick and Chad in the studio working on some things, right, or Chad and Mark, or things being sent to me and we're talking about things over the phone. It's funny. I've told this story a couple of times, but I remember, standing in line with my now 6-year-old son at a 4th of July celebration. He was, waiting to use the bathroom, and I get a phone call from the guys from the studio, like, "Hey, we re-recorded Hold Me In. We want to get your opinion." And they played it to me over the phone, and we talked through things that way. So I think just the unique way in which we had to record and almost fully do the album. I don't know if it just created, new freshness or what, but it I think it baked something new, some additional special sauce into what we were doing.
No, and I think part of it too that's really benefited us. We've always, been recording all in the same room, and we still do for the most part, other than Jim, who has to kind of do when he does it. We One of the things that kind of works out is I think Jim had even more time to kind of hone the backing vocal stuff that he does, which is just awesome on the new record. I think it's Jim's finest lead backing vocals, as we like to call them. And then Chad, he recorded his lead guitar parts kind of on his own as well. And I think just the time to do that alone, I think that worked in our favor in a lot of ways, because instead of we're all staring each other down going, what do you have, what do you have, I think that extra time it took in regards to the backing vocals and the lead guitar stuff really benefited from that way of working.
Cool.
Now, overall, I'd say it was kind of oddly more collaborative doing it that way, because there'd be a version, a skeleton of a song that we hash out and then send it to Jim, and then Jim put some stuff on it, which then makes us go back and tweak our parts, change our arrangement, maybe re-record the whole thing. That gives you a way to kind of thoughtfully do that collaboration, versus just everybody playing at full volume in a practice space. And then, sometimes after you record a song, you sit there and you go, oh, that's what you were playing. I never really hear that when we're playing live because it's so loud. This way you could actually hear everything that people were contributing, respond to it and react to it. And then, have some time for the other person then to process what you've done with their thing. So it's kind of like a tennis match, volley back and forth,
Nice.
until we got to something that we really liked. And we had the time and we had the luxury of doing that. We had the necessity of doing it because we had people involved in the record that don't live in the same city. With the luxury of doing it because Chad is a really great engineer and has a really wonderful studio that he's put together and knows how to use it. So we weren't all trying to cram into a studio where the clock's ticking, the meter's running, and we just have to blast through the songs to try to get them on tape.
That's
I
right.
think the other cool thing too is I think after doing that, I'm very surprised even now, months after it's been released and all the time spent, there was very little that we all agreed were like, that's terrible, that needs to be cut, that needs to be, redone, or this doesn't fit. I think that even with that more time and more thorough thought, I still think that ultimately what we generally put down on tape still sounded really good, and we all agreed like, yep, we're right where we need to be.
Right. And I think that we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now without the fact that we spent all those years in the practice space, showing up to a show without practicing and being able to have that muscle memory. And we put out a live album last year, live at First Avenue. We played a show there, and it was professionally recorded, and it's probably one of the best shows we ever played, and it just happened to be recorded live, so we released it. So, but just to be able to show up with limited practice, if any, and be able to pull it off, we couldn't have done that without all of those years of just sweating it out in the practice space. And I think that goes as far as the studio as well, the same sort of a thing. We just kind of know how to make it work. Whereas if we were a band day one trying to do that, I think it'd probably be a disaster.
I could imagine. Now with the album Hold Me In, I noticed, and Mark and I are album guys, and we constantly talk about this on the close to 40 now episodes that we've done, where the albums, we love listening to albums, we love putting them on. There's a flow to them. I noticed that there was a very healthy flow on this album. I mean, you have Work Release. Right from the get-go, sets kind of the tone. And then a couple of tracks down, from Never Get That Far and Life Could Get So Long, it tones the album down for a minute and then goes back. How much thought was put into that? Or did you guys just say, well, this kind of makes sense? Or was there an intent behind the flow of the album?
Well, we're album people, first and foremost. Singles are great for what they are, but ultimately we will always make albums and always sequence as if it's an album.
Right.
That's just the way we've listened to music our whole lives, and I can't see that changing. It's, it should be a little bit of a journey. And As far as sequencing, I tend to come with the songs and we kind of finish writing and arranging them together. But as far as like the actual sequencing, I think Mark and Jim here probably do a majority of that, sending things back and forth, and they've always been really good at that piece, making sure things are where they were supposed to be. Because this is not the order I came up with, and
Right.
I think it's the perfect order. So I've learned that I should probably just step out of the way when it comes to that sort of a thing.
Yeah, we do. We put a lot of thought and even debate and argument into the sequencing of the song. So I'm really happy to hear that that it pays off and that people actually, enjoy that and appreciate it for what it is. But yeah, for me, it's super important because I'm an older guy. I come from listening to albums, listening to sides of albums, and the first song, the second song, the second song, the first song on side two, so to speak, is still a big thing for me. So I mean, I still think in terms of a vinyl sequence, whether there's a vinyl record coming out or not.
Right.
And I want those that ebb and flow, like you're talking about. You want to come out with some couple of strong tracks, but then the album has to go through a few different moods. So it is kind of like when we are talking about those party records, you want a record that you can hang with for the whole record. It's not a record where you have to put down your drink and go, put something else in or skip over some tracks. You kind of want a record that gives you an experience, takes you on a little journey with some variety up and down in the road that you're traveling. Some different landscapes you're looking at while you are hanging with this record for 45 minutes.
But I think it's part of I do think the sequencing is part of the storytelling, and it does feel good. I will say, I think if I can think back to a couple of Mark and I's most tenuous arguments in the time in the band, it's always around sequencing of songs and being very specific or bullheaded about where we feel things should fit. So it does feel good to hear that it's appreciated. But, I think when the songs are so well put together and the story writing is so good, that sequencing is part of that storytelling as well. And that's why it's so important. I think that, I think 8-track song is a great song, and I think it's a great way to end the album. And I think that the space and the openness on it, but it wouldn't have made any sense as track 5 or track 6. It belonged where we put it, and everything that came before it, I think was a lead up to that final track. So from that standpoint, is part of that storytelling. So I think it's really important.
Now on the track, never got that far. I noticed there's a different singer on the second verse. Jim, is that you?
No, that's Andrew Hyra, our guy Andrew Hyra from Pilgrim.
Ah, got it. So live, I'm assuming, Nick, you take over and sing that second verse, correct?
Well, we never. Well, I play it acoustic live once in a while with doing solo stuff, but overall, we haven't really played that live just because we haven't had the opportunity.
Sure.
But no, Andrew he's an interesting part of this because years ago, my first band, we played our first show at a high school, and we had these like 5 or 6 loud punk rock songs, but we kicked off the show doing like 3 acoustic covers, which seems really strange now. But one of them was a song called Sweet Louisiana Sound by Billy Pilgrim. They were an Atlantic Records band in the 90s, and they were on this compilation that the singer and I really liked. And years later, through our friend Dave, who booked shows in Illinois, I ended up meeting Andrew, and he was telling me about how he had booked him and how he's great, and he's in this band called Billy Pilgrim, and I'm like, no way. So we became friends, and before we ever had a conversation, we kind of made a deal because I sent him like an iPhone video of me playing the first verse and chorus of that song over Facebook Messenger through my iPhone.
Nice.
And he sent back the next verse and the next chorus, and we finished it that way. And we made an agreement that we were not going to talk to each other on the phone at all before the song was written and recorded.
Right.
Which we didn't. So what you're hearing on the record is all written basically over Facebook Messenger and then recorded because he lives out in Connecticut. And then once we were done and Chad sent the mix down of it, Andrew and I got on the phone and chatted officially and laughed about it. But no, he's a great guy. Billy Pilgrim just got back together, actually. He's
Oh, cool.
his partner in Billy Pilgrim is Christian Bush, who actually started the country band Sugarland, if you've heard of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, so they just got the band back together, and they're re-releasing kind of their lost album that they had put out years ago that they only printed up like 500 copies, and then they kind of stopped playing, and then he started Sugarland. So he's back doing that now, but we've done a little bit more collaborating here and there too, just sending stuff back. But he's a wonderful guy and obviously a great singer.
Right.
A lot of people ask me how we got Willie Nelson to sing on a record, but that's actually Andrew.
I mean, it is twangier than the way you were singing. Yes, absolutely. But nevertheless,
Oh, he sounds like Willie. Great.
it fit the flow. And the next question I had was this idea of Hold Me In, because again, I'm thinking albums, right? I'm thinking themes, and we get a title track too down the way. What was kind of that idea? Because and obviously it's left up to interpretation to many different people, and everyone has their own interpretation of things, which is absolutely awesome. But kind of was there that central theme with these songs and the concept of holding me in, whatever that means to anybody?
Well, that's a really good question, because this record and most of the records, like a majority of it, I'll come in with the songs kind of written, and then, like I said, we'll arrange, do some rewrites here and there. Over the years, there's been some discussion about, well, Jim sang a song, or, Jim's a songwriter in his own right. He just released his first solo record.
Oh, nice.
Recently, too.
Very cool.
But Mark one day said, "Hey, Jim, you have anything?" And this is kind of the first time Jim co-wrote "Chase the Ghost" on Leaving Minneapolis, and sang vocals on that as two lead vocals on a couple verses. But this was kind of the first time where we said, "Jim, do you have a song? Like, do you have a song? Just give us a song." And he sent it. We high on stressed it up. We actually did two versions. This really kind of strange, quiet version, and then the rock version that's on the record. And we're going to decide between the two. So Jim's first solo songwriting moment ended up being the title track of the record. So
wow,
he didn't get any extra money because there isn't any. So as far as I don't know, you want to talk about what "Hold Me In" means to you, Jim? I think it works great with songs, but that's your jam right there.
It's funny too, because I remember sending it over, and when I wrote the song, a couple of months before we decided to move. So I was still in Minnesota before I told the guys we were moving, and we knew that was coming. So the song is really about the end of a chapter, and kind of, the moving on from a big portion of my life, and holding on to that, what I was taking with me, So it's funny that for me, there's parts of the song that are a reflection of the band ending. And then, that would be, and the best part is I looked at it as, the reason I sent that song is I felt it had the best opportunity to potentially to be like an Americana kind of countryish feeling, high on stress song. And then when the guy sent it back to me and it was this kind of rockin', rock song, I was like, oh, that's not at all what I would have done. And this is great. So, but I think the crazy thing about it is, we chatted through that, and the song, was the final version of the song was great. And then as we started thinking about the content of the other songs, and really how we all felt for the other songs, and the collection as itself, it just started to make sense. I about lost it when Mark was like, "I think we should call this sucker 'Hold Me In,' and I thought they were pulling my leg."
Well, no, I think it works really well with the concept of the record. A lot of the songs, a lot of the lyrics over the course of all the records, really, if you really dig in, there's a lot of talk about time and time moving and time slipping. And
right.
I think "Hold Me In" kind of fits that topic. And on top of that, one day Mark had posted on Facebook this fabulous painting that his daughter did of a clock melting.
And that's the cover, right?
Right away. And I said, that is the album cover.
Yeah.
That is so cool, because it fits the lyrics, it fits "Hold Me In." And, ultimately that was the album cover. And boy, when that vinyl showed up a couple weeks ago, I couldn't believe how great that thing looked.
Yeah, totally fits the theme of everything. And Nick, a quick question too, because I noticed you were using Les Pauls. I'm a guitar player myself, so notice you're using Les Pauls a lot of the time. I did see though the YouTube video, the quarantine video, you had the Telecaster. Is there a preference when you're trying to get that certain tone and certain sound, or is the Les Paul the more of the go-to axe for you?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I love my Telly. It's more of a studio guitar for me.
Right.
Like there'll be a layer of a Telly on there. Usually, once in a while, I'll do that. But more times than not, I'm a Les Paul guy. And on stage, especially with this band, I'm a Les Paul guy.
Cool.
Chad owns some amazing like '68 Les Paul. He's got a '71 gold top. I've got a Les Paul here too, and then but Chad's also got a bunch of Tellys. And so in the band, Chad usually plays Tellys, I play Les Pauls. But in the studio, it's kind of whatever is necessary for the song in the studio.
Nice.
So we've done kind of a quarantine record. What do you guys see the next move for High on Stress be? We're going to get another record this way, or we're just going to wait it out and see what happens? What's the plan?
Well, we were planning an East Coast tour with our friends the Sparklers out of Philadelphia.
Okay.
In fact, if you want another band to talk to, the Sparklers out of Philadelphia is a great one.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Why don't we finish this first?
Yeah. So do that. But we were going to do an East Coast tour with them. We were talking Baltimore, Philadelphia, New Jersey, and New York. And then
Look at that! Even these guys from Minnesota don't want to come to Florida.
But then we were going to end with a possible show in Connecticut where Andrew lives. And that's kind of how we were going to end it. And then, of course, everything happened, and that didn't happen. So hopefully we get around to that. I've talked to Andrew about doing some solo acoustic shows with him, probably in like Atlanta and Charleston, maybe Florida. Who knows?
Yeah.
But as far as band stuff, I think when all is said and done, hopefully we can finally get back to some Midwest shows, get over to the Northeast to hang out with the Sparklers. And, the next record, who knows? Like, we've already started writing. I've got a couple things that I'm working on, but, there's no big hurry. This record's pretty darn new still, so I'm not too concerned about that. But ultimately, I'm sure there'll be another one down the road.
Cool.
Mark, do you have the real answer?
Which
No,
Mark?
that's
No,
we don't know what's coming next.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and that's one of those questions I knew I had to ask, but obviously, the answers right now are kind of limited. Is there anything? Obviously, we want you guys to be able to get this record in front of as many people as available, and we hope all of our listeners will take the opportunity to check it out. Are there any side projects or anything else you guys are working on that you'd like to just take a moment to recommend our listeners check out?
Yeah, no, Jim, you said you have a solo album, right?
Yeah, so it's I released it in June. It was kind of almost a dare from the guys in the band. They've been telling me I need to release something on my own for pretty much since the day they met me, and we decided to do it as a giveaway for our Kickstarter for the Moonlight Girls vinyl that we did. And so Chad and I have spent the last 18 months working on it. So it came out. It's on Bandcamp.
Cool.
It's on Spotify, everywhere you can get your music. So yeah.
Mark, you're in a lot of bands.
Yeah, I'm in other bands as well. I'm in a band called the Heavy Sixers. That's an original band that you can find on Bandcamp and SoundCloud. We don't have a record out yet. We've got a number of recordings that we've recorded in our studio, but that's the Heavy Sixers. I'm also in a band called the Red Flags, which is sort of a band with like some really great musicians and me somehow. So I'm not sure how I got into that band, but that's a great band that nobody's ever heard of, the Red Flags. And there's a couple of Red Flags records, actually only one that's been released. Then I'm also in a band called Whiskey Rock and Roll Club Minneapolis. Yep, that's the actual name of the band.
Nice.
And we have a couple of records out that are available on the usual, Spotify, Bandcamp, and so forth. So
Greatest merch of all time, by the way. Don't forget
we do
that.
have some pretty good merch. So, if we have a shirt that a lot of people, I don't even know if you need to listen to the band, but people like the shirt because it's got a snake spitting lightning bolts, and it says whiskey, it says rock and roll, it
says club and it says Minneapolis, so it's kind of like got all the elements of design that you would want in an article of clothing. So, just they fly off the shelf.
Pretty
So,
awesome.
yeah, I play in those other bands, and those are all things mostly that you can catch or under normal circumstances catch around here in Minneapolis.
And Nick, what about you? Just any acoustic solo stuff, or any thoughts of putting anything together?
No, I'm not one of those people who writes 1,000 songs a year or a million records. So this is kind of where it goes. I do some solo shows here and there when you can, but this is really the thing that I love doing the most, and kind of where it leads me back to, and unless I was a guitar player in somebody else's band, it really wouldn't make sense because there's just not enough songs to go around.
Nice. So as stated earlier, we recommend records to each other to review. We also take fan requests for albums to review. Me and Mark have a lot of fun with it. We discovered some cool bands. Many episodes ago, someone recommended the band Rival Sons to us, and I really dug them. I know I recommended Mark check out Afghan Wigs, which he wasn't overly familiar with at the time. He absolutely loves them. Do you guys have a rock album to suggest to us? What would that album be? Because that's the album then we're going to be reviewing on our next episode.
Ooh, that's a hard one since there's three of us.
Yeah. You guys got to agree on it, too.
Oh, we have to agree on it. Oh, gee. We're going to be here all night.
Well, Nick,
I know you've only spent 65 minutes with us, but our ability to agree in a short period of time is not necessarily a strong suit.
I'll just pass the buck here to Nick. Nick, you've got all those, lost 90s, alt rock gems that, like Fig Dish and things like that. I mean, why don't you just pull one of those records out of your hat?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. So I'll end on one, but like you said, Jets to Brazil, Orange Rhyming Dictionary is one for sure. Another one, Super Drag in general, all across the board. I love that band. But I think Mark is right. This is the moment because I am on a mission. And I'm friends with them on Facebook, and I don't know these people at all. But occasionally I will harass them about getting back together. This is another moment.
All right.
What I'm going to say is Big Dish. That's what love songs often do. They were a Chicago band out of the 90s.
Okay.
I think they were on Polygram Records. They released 2 records, and they were so awesome. I love them. And they're going to get back together because I keep putting it out in the universe. So we're going to go with Big Dish. That's what love songs often do.
Nice.
I think you could probably find it online to give it a listen if you.
Yeah, I see it right here. Released in '95. We got 13 songs, 50 minutes worth. Fig Dish. That will be the album that we will be reviewing, and hopefully your efforts make them get back together. When I asked on Instagram to you guys, is Leaving Minneapolis going to be on Spotify? Me and Mark have a running joke because I think it was last year, right, Mark, where we saw Chad Price from All and Dragged River at a show, and I said, listen, Chad. Pummel, which is one of our favorite All records, it's not on Spotify. And then shortly after it became on Spotify. So I said, see, Mark, because of my conversation with Chad, we got it on Spotify. So Nick, hopefully you get some influence there with Fig Dish.
Thank you. And to your point, that All Pummel record is fantastic, but let's just take a moment to tell them that song Hetero should have never happened because that was hideous.
Yeah.
Yes. But
and no one ever calls them out on it. For as much as I love that record, that song is garbage.
Well,
okay.
The problem is as soon as you start talking about All, people just want to talk about the Descendants, which is I understand that they don't know the difference, but it's really too bad because All's fantastic. And Pummel in particular has some very cringeworthy moments.
There's a few.
Just a few.
But $1 Million is on there. Oh, come on.
Long Distance, Breaking Up, right? Not Easy, Miranda. I mean, those are all great.
Yeah.
I'm just happy I dodged another.
Uncle Critic and Hetero can go away.
Yes, there you go. Stalker, that's another one I kind of like too, actually. Anyway, so I got that album back on there, so hopefully that's a good thing.
I've ruined our chances of ever playing with the Descendants or All. Bill Stevenson's probably going to kill them after what I just said. So sorry, guys.
Oh, well, listen, guys, we really had a fun time chatting with you guys. What's the best way for fans to keep up to date with all your happenings? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? How can fans get connected with you guys?
Yeah, no, Facebook is a good way, but they limit what people can actually see. So quite honestly, these days, Instagram and Twitter are probably the better options, or Bandcamp in general. All of our records are on there. The greatest hits, the live album is on there. But I would say those three places are probably the best, and everybody kind of has their own preference which ones they go to. But we're kind of everywhere. But that would be my recommendation.
Or just to park up front of Nick's house.
We do have a website.
Oh, yeah,
right, Jim.
I forgot about website.
We do have a website. Yes, highunstressband.com.
There you go. So that's another way people could connect with you, right?
Yeah,
Indeed.
and that's got links to all of our social media as well as where you can buy records and downloads and links to all the stuff you need to be linked.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, listen, guys, we really appreciate your time. I know you guys are busy with life, but it was extremely enjoyable to chat with everyone, find out about you guys. Hopefully we can have you on again in a future episode. Listen, because there will be a review of the Fig Dish album. So, Nick, thank you so much for doing that. For all those listening, be sure to check us out on Instagram. Check out High on Stress on Instagram, our Facebook group, subscribe to YouTube, like all those other things. And I say this, be well, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.